Welcome to legislation today.
Imagine getting a tax break for saving someone's life.
Yeah.
Crazy, right?
Yeah. Sounds pretty wild.
Well, that's exactly what's happening in Michigan starting January 1st, 2025. We're diving deep into a new law giving living organ donors a $10,000 tax credit.
Wow.
We've got an article here from WXYZ Detroit,
Oh,
and I'm really curious to see how this will all work,
yeah. It's a fascinating development for sure.
What's the cost of a life saved?
Right.
The article highlights the story of David Galbensky to kind of illustrate the impact this kind of law could have.
Okay.
He was diagnosed with a rare autoimmune disease back in 2013 that eventually led to end-stage liver disease.
Oh, wow. So that's a situation where a liver transplant becomes absolutely critical.
Exactly. And thankfully for David, his brother-in-law Mark Davis stepped up in 2019 and donated part of his liver.
Wow.
It's amazing, that we can even do that.
It is. The liver is one of the few organs that can actually regenerate,
Oh, wow.
making living donation possible. It's a major undertaking.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
And that's where this new law, sponsored by State Representative Felicia Brebeck, comes in.
Okay.
$10,000 tax credit might not sound like a lot, but it's meant to cover some of those hidden costs that donors face.
Right, like lost wages,
Yeah.
travel back and forth to the hospital, maybe even childcare or lodging.
Oh, yeah.
It adds up so fast.
It does.
And the article points out that these financial burdens often hit lower income individuals the hardest, making it even harder for them to consider becoming living donors.
Which is so important to keep in mind. It's not just about the willingness to donate, right?
Yeah.
It's about making it possible for people to actually do it.
Exactly.
We heard from Patrick O'Brien of Gift of Life, Michigan, and he said the number of living organ donors in the state has basically flatlined fewer than 200 people a year.
And that's despite the fact that there are two ways to be an organ donor.
Right.
You can register as a donor upon death, that box you check on your driver's license.
Right.
But you can also choose to be a living donor.
Okay.
It's a much more proactive step, and it involves contacting one of the 8 transplant programs in Michigan directly.
So 2 very different paths.
Yeah.
But this tax credit is specifically for living donors, right?
Correct.
I wonder if it'll be enough to really move the needle. O'Brien seemed hopeful, but it's a pretty complex issue.
It is. I think one thing people might not realize is just how disruptive the donation process can be.
Yeah.
The article quoted Dr. Jason Denny, the surgical director of the Living Kidney Donor Transplant Program at Henry Ford Health.
Okay.
He talked about how taking time off work for surgery is a huge hurdle for many people.
Wow. Yeah.
Like a lot of people just can't afford to do that.
Right.
Makes you wonder how many more people would donate if they didn't have to worry about losing income or falling behind on bills.
Exactly. And that's what Dr. Denny thinks this tax credit could do. He said it could help people align their heart and their wallet.
Oh, I like that.
It's a great way to put it,
Yeah.
Because sometimes wanting to help just isn't enough.
Right.
Life gets in the way.
It's a reality we have to acknowledge.
Yeah.
And, when we talk about life, it's important to remember that organ donation impacts more than just the recipient.
Right.
Their families, their friends, their whole community benefits.
That's such a good point. It's like ripples in a pond.
Yeah.
And speaking of ripples, remember David Galbensky, the man who received a liver transplant from his brother-in-law?
Yeah.
Well, because of that gift, he was able to walk his daughter down the aisle this past June.
Wow. That's a powerful image.
It is.
It really drives home the impact this law could have, not just on individuals, but on families and generations to come.
Absolutely. So we've talked about the financial burdens that can prevent people from becoming living donors and how this new law in Michigan is trying to change that. It's about making a life-saving choice a little bit easier.
Yeah.
But it makes you wonder, what if this wasn't just happening in Michigan? What if every state had a similar tax credit?
Now that's a thought-provoking question.
It is.
Could we see a dramatic increase in living organ donations across the country? Would it change how we think about donation as a society?
Right. Imagine the possibilities. More lives saved.
Yeah.
More families. David's getting those precious moments together. It's pretty incredible to think about.
It certainly paints a picture of a future where financial barriers don't stand in the way of such an important act of generosity.
It's a lot to consider, and we've only just scratched the surface here.
Yeah.
This deep dive has hopefully given you a glimpse into the world of organ donation and the potential this new law has, but there's always more to learn.
And even more importantly, there are questions to ask.
Absolutely. What stands out to you in all of this? What questions are you left with? Makes you think about the bigger picture, doesn't it? We've been talking about this $10,000 tax credit, but it's so much more than just a financial incentive.
I think that's a key takeaway here.
Yeah.
This law is sparking a conversation about the value we place on organ donation.
Right.
And the lengths we're willing to go to support those who choose to give this incredible gift.
And it brings up the question of how we make it easier for people to become living donors.
Yeah.
We touched on the 2 paths to donation earlier,
Right.
but I think it's worth digging a little deeper for those who might not be familiar with the differences.
Absolutely. When most people think about organ donation, they think about registering as a donor after death.
Yeah.
Usually a simple process like checking a box on your driver's license
Right.
or when you file your taxes. But becoming a living donor is a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
It's a proactive choice that involves contacting a transplant center directly
Right.
and going through a rigorous evaluation process.
So it's not something you just decide to do on a whim.
No.
There are medical evaluations, psychological screenings, a lot to consider.
Yeah.
And as we've discussed, there are often financial hurdles as well.
Right. And that's where this new law in Michigan is trying to make a difference. It's specifically designed to address those financial barriers for living donors.
Yeah.
It's an interesting approach, and it'll be fascinating to see what kind of impact it has.
Right.
Not just in Michigan, but potentially on a national level.
Imagine if we saw a wave of similar laws across the country. Could it lead to a significant increase in living organ donations?
It's certainly possible. And it raises a lot of interesting questions.
Yeah.
Could it change the way we view organ donation as a society?
Right.
Could it inspire more people to consider becoming living donors? Could it even lead to innovations in transplant technology and procedures?
It's exciting to think about the possibilities.
Yeah.
This deep dive has given us a lot to ponder. And hopefully spark some curiosity in you as well. If you're interested in learning more about organ donation or exploring the possibility of becoming a donor yourself, we encourage you to reach out to your local transplant center or visit the website of the United Network for Organ Sharing.
Great resource.
They have a wealth of information and resources available.
For sure.
It's a decision that can truly change lives, both for the recipient and for the donor.
Absolutely.
And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep learning.